Hey AP Seminar. Okay, the purpose of this video is to give you an overview of the IWA, just a general big picture as to what this assignment is about. Future videos will talk more specifically about the introduction, about body paragraphs, about the conclusion, but this is just general overview. Now, IWA stands for Individual Written Argument. Individual because you're writing it alone. Written argument is because you are exploring the issue by looking at the argument that currently exists. And then you're leading to a conclusion, solution, or resolution. So let's talk about a paper that would lead to a conclusion first. If you're leading to a conclusion, what you're dealing with is an issue that is not yet decided, but it is an issue that's generally academic or abstract. For example, if my question were, what was the impact of television news on public support for Vietnam, the Vietnam War? There's no problem to solve there. I am trying to decide, I'm trying to measure what kind of impact television news had on public support for the Vietnam War. That isn't something I can solve, but that is something I can come to a conclusion about. It affected it greatly, it didn't affect it at all. It affected it in this way, but not in this way. How did? Once I have determined my research question, the next thing I need to do is to figure out what are the issues that someone must understand in order to understand why this is still an unsettled point. What is still being debated? What is still up for grabs in terms of our understanding of this situation? So if I find out that there's a political issue involving this, and there's an economic aspect to this, and there's a social aspect to it, and that I have to cover those in order to fully understand the media's impact on our support of the Vietnam War. Those are the issues I have to cover. And they're only issues if they help me better understand the media's impact on the Vietnam War, and they're still debatable. There's groups of people that disagree. That's the only way you have an issue. So, for each issue, there must be a disagreement, and the issue must contribute to my understanding of the question. In addition, I can't skip issues. If I'm doing something like the impact that media had on the public support for the Vietnam War, and I don't discuss the social, that is impossible. Social change and social impact and social unrest during the 60s has to be a part of that discussion. So skipping issues that any reader would understand as essential is a problem. You need to make sure you include everything that's relevant. Which means if you have too many issues, if you have 5 or 6 issues that you have to cover, you have too broad a question. And you need to narrow your question in order to limit the number of issues you have to cover. And then finally, you're working to a conclusion, solution, or resolution. If this is a question like the Vietnam War question, the conclusion I am going to draw is to what degree did the media impact? I'm not solving anything. I'm simply offering an opinion based on fact. Now, my conclusion will conclude this paper, my opinion about the degree to which. And I'm going to draw my opinion from refereeing the argument that various perspectives have for each of the issues. I'll weigh their relevant evidence. I'll bring in evidence of my own. And then eventually I come to a conclusion on this issue. So the paper, introduction. Why should I care about this? Why is it important? Who does it affect? We'll talk more about an introduction specifically later. The argument. What issues do I have to understand, and what are the groups that are still arguing these issues? And then finally, my conclusion. What do I conclude about this issue based on the argument and my evaluation of it, and based on my own understanding through additional research? Now, a problem solution paper is similar. Still context, why do I care about this, who does it affect? But now you're solving a problem. So your research question is going to be built around a problem that is currently unsolved. And then the issues are things that we have to address in order to solve the problem. So if I'm looking at how to dispose of electronic waste, One problem is that if it's not properly contained, the runoff can damage the water table. Well, that's an environmental issue. And so I need to examine the argument around what can be done to stop this from happening. One group wants to handle it this way, one group wants to handle it that way. Another issue might be the cost involved. Who's going to pay for it? How much does it cost? Where should that come from? That argument might be have 2 or 3 perspectives involved in it as well, and I have to examine that argument. If there's another issue, I would have to examine that as well. And for both papers, those issues have to be from multiple lenses. Unlike the IRR, which was all from a single lens, economic or political or social, this needs to cover any relevant lens. So when you're deciding what you're going to select for issues for your research paper, either problem solution or situation implication, you do have to make sure that you don't leave out lenses that a reader would expect that you'd have to cover. If you're going to talk about getting rid of waste and you're not going to talk about cost, you're missing something that is essential to the argument. And with a problem solution paper, then you are working to a solution. And just like with your IRR, the solution is going to be taking into account the argument, but arriving at a solution that you feel is most reasonable. You can adopt certain aspects of certain perspectives if you choose, but whatever you do, you need to support your solution with relevant evidence. And then, just like with your TMPs and your IRRs, your solution, the solution that you arrive at, must have limitations. Nothing is perfect. You haven't come up with the foolproof solution that pleases everybody. So in what ways does your solution fall short of satisfying all of the perspectives? That's the general overview of an IWA. That's what the purpose of it is. That's what it's supposed to do. We'll spend a little time in subsequent videos talking about specific parts of the paper, what they should look like and how they should be built. As always, if you have questions, make sure you contact me and I will do what I can to help you out. All right, thanks.